created all these things we call our own. From the mighty to the small, the glory in them all is God's and God's alone. God and God alone reveals the truth of all we call unknown. And all the best and worst of men won't change the Master's plan. It's God's and God's alone. God and God alone is fit to take the universe's throne. Let everything that lives reserves its truest praise for God and God alone. God and God alone will be the joy of our eternal home. He will be our one desire. Our hearts will never tire of God and God alone. God and God alone is fit to take the universe's throne. Let everything that lives reserves its truest praise for God and God alone. God and God alone is fit to take the universe's throne. Let everything that lives reserve its truest praise for God and God alone. Let everything that lives reserve its truest praise for God.
So, good day and happy Sabbath to everyone.
Yes, happy Sabbath.
Hello? Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, good day and happy Sabbath to everyone. It's evening here in the Philippines and it's afternoon in Abu Dhabi. And again, my name is JD and I'm with Sister Brynel and we are the hosts of Youth Stake in the Last Days. And we are very happy and honored that we were coordinated by Sister Gigi, Sister Jaza on this event. So, Sister Brandel, what are we going to talk about this evening?
Yes, tonight good evening to all the young people of Abu Dhabi and Church. Welcome to the Youth Stake in the Last Days. And so, my name is Ate. I'm with Kuya JB. And tonight we will be talking about, I hope that you can all relate because, we're all young people here. We have different struggles, and I believe that one of those struggles is dealing with our emotions. So tonight's topic is about handling and dealing with our emotions. But before that, I'd like to invite you all to bow down your head and close your eyes for a short word of prayer. Our most gracious, kind, loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day of Sabbath that you allow us to gather this day with these young people to study your word. And we believe that this is your will for us to study this very timely topic about dealing and handling with our emotions with these young people. We open our hearts and our minds so that we can fully understand what you want us to understand this afternoon. These young people be enlightened, will touch their hearts as well. And thank you for always hearing and answering our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And by the way, thank you, Kuya Belfort, for that wonderful rendition of God and God Alone. That was really nice.
So, to our youth, no, what are you feeling? How are you feeling? What are the emotions that you feel during this pandemic? And we also know that the youth are, at this age, like Sister Brian, you feel a lot of things when you're at
Yes.
the puberty stage. Okay, and this afternoon, we are so blessed, that we have a guest who can share about us, about these emotions. How do we cope up and handle these emotions? And more importantly, what does the Bible say on coping with these emotions? And our speaker will be is a graduate of a Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology at the Adventist University of the Philippines, and is currently practicing his profession as well as a med tech here in the Philippines. So, all the way from Pasay, Philippines, and to our viewers and to the viewers in Abu Dhabi, let's call on Brother Hans Van Dogue.
Yes. Welcome, Kuya Baban. I believe Kuya Baban was also
Hi.
their speaker 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
How
I'm
are you,
back
Kuya Baban?
today.
Ganda ng hair, ah.
Mhm.
Yes, Kuya Baban. Can you say hi to our young people from Abu Dhabi Church
Hi, children of Abu
again?
Dhabi Church. It's me again, Kuya Baban. So I hope you would learn something today about how your emotions work and how we deal with it
Yes. So to
the
start
Christian
with,
way. The
yeah, in a
Christian way.
Christian way, biblically, because we need to understand also that the Bible says something about dealing with our emotion. Because emotion is is a natural feeling. It's natural. It's normal. And um, our only the only problem would be how to deal with them. And hopefully Kuya Baban can help us be enlightened about this topic. Di ba, Kuya Baban?
Of course. Of course.
Can you, to start with, can you briefly tell us about emotion? What is emotion? Before you proceed with your presentation.
Ano ba? Well, emotions, they are our feelings. When you're happy, sad, the feeling that you get, the flutter that you get in your heart or in your tummy when you're nervous, kapag, when someone tells you that they love you, or when you're about to report a presentation, those are the feelings that we get inside our body na sometimes we cannot explain. And sometimes these emotions would lead to certain actions. And sometimes these actions are overwhelmed by our emotions. Sometimes our actions are, taken over by our emotions, heart over mind. So this afternoon, what we will be talking about is how emotions work, what happens in our body, what chemicals in our body are active when we are sad, when we are happy. So that's going to be my part in our discussion this afternoon.
Yes. So can you tell us more about understanding and handling and dealing with our emotion? To the young people who are watching right now, oh, by the way, hi to our online viewers. Yeah, say hi to our online viewers, Baba. Can you also greet our online viewers, Baba?
Hi. Hi, happy Sabbath po to our online viewers, to those who faithfully watch the series of Sister Vinyl, Brother JD, and Brother Eman, who is not here with us yet.
Yeah.
Think he'll be with us later. So we hope that you are continually blessed and that you were blessed. Tama ba?
Yes. Thank you very much, no, brother Hans Van. We know that emotion is a universal thing. We feel sometimes we feel different emotions, but at the same time, the emotions that we feel is somehow similar to the emotions that people feel in Abu Dhabi as well. No?
Exactly.
So I think it would be nice if you start talking about how do we deal with emotions? What should we do with our emotions, Brother Hans Van? Should we suppress it? Whether example, if you're facing a problem right now, if you're
Mhm.
facing a lot of trials right now, what should you do, or what should you feel, or what should you do with that feeling?
Yes. So we will be going over that as we go along with our discussion. So before I start, I was just to give a small disclaimer to our watchers, um, to our viewers. Right now, I'm in the hospital. I am literally a watcher. I'm watching over a patient. So please bear with me if you would notice nurses, doctors, or medics. If you would hear voices in the background, just ignore.
Bear with me.
Please bear with me. Ayun. So, yeah. So before we start, I would just like to give you a certain introduction on what makes our emotion in our body. Parang what happens to our body whenever we feel something. So the main system, if you would remember in our elementary or high school days, diba, there are how many systems in our body? 9 ata. Diba? We have the skeletal system, we have the muscular system, we have the integumentary system, the respiratory system, and the system or the organ system that is responsible for our emotions is the endocrine system. So it is the system that regulates the hormones in our bodies. Now, these hormones regulates certain mechanisms or certain processes in our body. So they are not restricted to our emotions. For example, yung pag-digest ng food, it is also regulated by our endocrine system. So, for example, yung absorption of calcium and everything else. So those are almost all processes in our bodies are regulated by hormones. So these processes include our emotions. So today, since medyo maiksi lang yung panahon natin, I would just like to discuss a few hormones that affect our emotions or that are affected by our emotions, and if they would also affect our physical health in a way. Yeah. So the first one is dopamine. Yeah. So to our children, to our youth in there, wala pa ang camera. So dopamine is the feel-good hormone. The hormone that you feel kapag may when you're doing something pleasurable, the feeling that you get every time you learn something new. Yung kapag wow, oo nga no. That feeling is regulated by dopamine. So that is one of these hormones. Also, ito yung isa sa mga hormones included in the happy hormones. We have hormones in our bodies that are classified as happy hormones, and dopamine is one of them. Another one is serotonin. Now, serotonin is another hormone in our body. This one naman, it regulates our mood. Also, it regulates digestion. It also regulates our sleep. So that's serotonin. Another one is the endorphins. Endorphins is another happy hormone. Ito ata yung pinakasikat na happy hormone na if every time you would say happy hormone, ang unang papasok sa mga tao na who know happy hormones, endorphins yung isa sa mga unang papasok sa isip nila. So endorphins is one of our natural pain relievers in our body. So every time we would be in a stressful situation, to help ease the pain na nararamdaman natin, our body would secrete or would produce endorphins. Another one is epinephrine and the norepinephrine. Epinephrine and the norepinephrine are also known as the adrenaline hormones. So if you are aware, dito sa mga kabataan natin, if you have heard about the term adrenaline rush, every time, kunwari in certain emergency situations, for example, nasusunog yung bahay, and then eventually magugulat ka yung bata ang payat-payat, pero they're able to carry yung refrigerator or yung washing machine all by themselves. So that is because of increased levels of epinephrine and norepinephrine in in stressful situation, in extremely stressful situations. Ayun yung bigla kang lalakas. So it's not just epinephrine and norepinephrine. They're not just increased in stressful situations. They are also increased when you are angry or when you are mad. Kaya siguro when we are angry or when we are mad, kapag nagsasubmit tayo dun sa emotion na yon, mas malakas yung suntok natin sa kinagagalitan natin, or mas masakit yung mas malakas tayong sumigaw, or mas intense yung emotions natin. Our emotions tend to be heightened when we are angry. It is also because epinephrine and norepinephrine are increased when we are angry. So the last hormone that I would like to share with you is cortisol. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone. And so when you have high levels of cortisol in your body, you would tend to be more stressed or depressed, or you have an inclination to feel sad. Parang ganon. So there are also there are these hormones. They are also found in food. For example, kapag if you would hear, di ba, there are sayings na if you wanna feel good or if you wanna feel happy or if gusto nyong maging tawag dito, kung gusto nyo maging lively yung mood nyo, you eat a banana. Parang you eat bananas, bananas would make you feel better, bananas would make you feel happier. It's because bananas are rich in serotonin. So if you would remember, serotonin kanina, serotonin regulates your mood. No? So if you would eat more bananas, medyo mas maglalighten yung mood mo. So these are the things that that our body secretes every time we feel something. So yung dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, they are the happy hormones. It is because when we are happy, they are increased. At the same time, kapag sila bumaba yung level nila to a certain level, they could also cause depression and anxiety to us. So it is very important that we that we anong tawag nito? That we regulate the levels of these hormones in our body. So how do we do that? Yun na nga, sinabi ko kanina, kumain ng saging, to make you feel better. Also, get enough sunlight. Kasi when you get more sunlight, yung absorption ng serotonin would also be increased. Kaya yung ibang stress, if you would also notice sa mga people with depression or anxiety, they are more stressed in the evening. Na parang you would hear na, the evenings are the worst. It's like my depression or anxiety is doubled during the nights. No, that could also be one factor. Kasi walang sunlight, walang araw sa gabi. So, hindi masyadong nare-regulate yung serotonin in the evening. So it's better regulated in the during the day when there is sun. So parang ganun. So get enough sunlight, get regular exercise. So those are the things that we do to manage these hormones. Now, going back to our topic today is emotions. So what are emotions? So nabanggit na kanina ni Kuya JD na emotions, they are para siyang it's a universal thing that everyone feels no matter what race, kung saan ka man galing, no matter how smart you are or how rich you are or how poor you are, whatever your status is, whatever your social status is, it is something that we all have. We all feel happy, we all feel angry, we all feel sad, we all feel afraid at times. So these are natural. In the Bible, I would also want
Okay, so while we're still waiting for Brother Hans Van. Hello, Brother Hans Van.
Choppy siya. He's inside the hospital kasi.
Yes, and we're having some internet connectivity problems because it's live.
Yeah, you're choppy.
Yes, you're quite choppy on that one.
where did I leave? Saan ako
Where did you
natapos?
get? Where did you
When you started to transition to the Bible, but everything was clear. It's great. No, you discussed the topics about the hormones. No, and you're transitioning na to the Bible at that part lang.
Okay. Ayun. So, this afternoon or this evening dito sa Pilipinas, it's now the sunset is really nice here in Pasay. I hope I can share it with you. Maganda ang sunset sa Manila Bay. Ayan. So, I would share with you certain characteristics of emotions so that later when we would discuss or when we would discuss how we deal with these emotions, it would be easier for us to understand. Or it would be easier for us to address our emotions because we have to understand it first. So number one, ang sabi dito, emotion is a valid part of our being. You know, when God said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Sabi dito sa Matthew. So when God created us, He He created us, hindi tayo anong tawag nito? Nandyan
Robot.
lang to live, 'di ba? Hindi tayo robot, 'di ba? We are given these emotions to siguro para magkaroon ng, how would you say it? Spice? Yung para
I love.
may love, yung there's that good feeling, 'di ba? Para increase yung dopamine mo, you would feel good doing something. For example, when we go together to worship, or when we are with our family, 'di ba? You would motivated ka. You're not just there to be there. You are there because you want to be there. So that's how God created us. He wants us to love him because we want to love him. Because he wanted to love us. So that's how we are created. In anong tawag nito? In popular media, Christians are usually looked at as people who are anong tawag nito? Who don't consider emotions. But Christians are looked at as people who are by the book, who just wants to follow what's written in the Bible. Na Christians are always looked at as emotionless or indifferent, diba, to the social problems na nag-exist ngayon. Diba na parang anong tawag nito? Meron pa nga, diba, nauuso na if you are silent in tragic situations or in times of oppression, then you are siding with oppressors. Diba? So that's how Christians are looked at. Na parang we are looked at as people who are indifferent, na parang hindi natin nakikita, like we don't feel anything, which cannot be any farther from the truth, because that is not how God created us. Diba? We are created with by a loving God for us to be able to reciprocate that love to God and to other to our friends and to our family. Next, emotion is a dominant force in our life. If you would remember, there are anong tawag nito? When the Israelites crossed Jordan, the nations in Canaan were gripped by fear. And even though anong tawag nito? Yung mga kings and kingdoms dun sa Israel, they are far stronger, and their yung army nila is far bigger than the army of Israelites. But when they saw when they saw the Israelites cross the Jordan River, they were filled with fear and umatras sila sa laban. Diba? So ganun ka-dominant yung emotions natin. When we are overwhelmed, when we feel extreme emotions, it would almost always lead to certain actions. For example, paano ba to? When we are happy, or kaya kunwari, when we are sad, kapag sobrang nalulungkot tayo, di ba nauuso ngayon yung stress eating? So parang, I feel so sad. So parang, sige, to make myself feel better, kakain ako. Diba ganun? So those are just certain examples. No, emotions would almost always lead to actions. That's why it's a very dominant force in our life. Yung third, and I think this is one of the I think this is the most crucial, or this is a crucial point, kasi tatlo lang sila. So this is one of the points that I would want everyone, you kids, to listen to. I want you to be attentive dito. It easily shifts or fluctuates. If you would remember the story of Elijah, diba si Elijah, he challenged the king's people na anong tawag nito? Na para i-prove kung sino yung totoong Panginoon. So nagtayo sila ng dalawang altar. Yung unang altar, yung altar na may just Josan, hindi na consume ng fire. And yung altar ni Elijah, yung offering ni Elijah when he prayed, na-consume ng fire yung altar ni Elijah. Partida binasa niya pa yun, di ba? Pero na-consume ng fire yung offering niya. So after that, syempre, ito si Elijah, he felt very, parang ang saya-saya niya kasi he felt victorious. Kasi God has proven himself and that God has proven that he is the real God. Kaya after that event, si Elijah parang ang saya-saya niya sa Panginoon. So he went back to the mountains. Diba si Elijah, he lived in the mountains when he was a prophet. Ngayon, bago siya bumalik sa mountains, sa kabundukan, he received news that Jezebel, parang a queen, si Queen Jezebel, is after him. And she's not just after him, but she is after his life. She wants to kill him. So from being very happy, si Elijah biglang na-stress. Bigla siyang na-depressed. That he said to the Lord, sabi sa 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 4, sabi niya, I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. Can you imagine, from feeling very happy, he would go downward yung emotions niya from being very happy, from being very victorious dun sa challenge niya against the idolaters. His emotions went downhill right there and then. Wala pang siguro isang oras yun from the time na na-receive niya yung news, bigla nang nag-sink yung heart niya siguro, na parang na-stress siya. He might have, felt almost like he would faint. Kasi nga, a queen is after his life. So, ganun kabilis din yung emotions natin na mag-change. That's why it is very important that we do not make decisions when we are emotional. For example, kapag bibili tayo here in the Philippines, there is this very popular online shopping application. It's called Shopee. Diba? Kapag ako, masaya kapag ako may nakita akong maganda, parang, uy, ang ganda nito. Kunwari, may nakita ako. Kunwari lang to, kunwari nakita ko, uy, wow, ang ganda ng gitara. Gusto kong matuto mag-gitara. out of the impulse of my emotion, gusto ko mag-gitara. So, bibilin ko yung gitara kahit gano'n siya kamahal. Because I felt very happy, parang feeling mo, anong tawag nito? You feel like you deserve it after working so hard, mga ganun, parang saya-saya ko, parang gusto ko ng gitara. Sige, bibili ako ng gitara. So, bibili ka ng gitara. And then after that, after spending the money, you would realize, you have other bills to pay. So that is just an example.
Hypothetical.
Of course. It's just an example. It doesn't have to be true. It's just an example.
I thought it was based on experience.
Hindi. We have our experiences, pero I don't think that counts.
This one is
pero ganun siya, diba? So, if we base our decisions on our emotions, most often than not, we would regret that decision that we made. Diba, parang sasabihin natin, we would always hear this line, nagpadala lang ako sa emosyon ko, or nadala lang ako ng emosyon ko kaya ako nagawa yun. Nadala lang ako ng emosyon ko kaya ako nasabi yun. It's a very famous line that is overused by people, no? who would do stuff on emotional impulse. Ayan. So, Ate Bri, Kuya JD, do you have?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Kuya Baban. We are waiting for your different emotions to tackle. I thought you were going to discuss about the three major emotions: the anger, what's that? Worry and fear.
Yes, we are going there. Pero you have.
Just to add lang din, no, doon sa sinabi ni Brother Hans Van. No, thank you very much. And it was really enticing. You talked about the hormones, no, let's just clarify to the people. Is it really the hormones that controls the emotions, or it's the emotions that controls the increase and decrease of those amounts of hormones.
Emotions. Yeah. And before you answer that, Kuya Baban, we have a guest here. Oh, someone wants to say hi. Someone wants to say hi. I don't know. Because sabihin daw siya eh. Oh, sabihin niyo na, Papa.
Hi.
Magtatanong kayo, hindi pa nga tanungan.
Wala pa. Mamaya pa po yung question and answer
Hindi,
pa.
magtatanong daw si Papa. May additional daw siya.
I-comment ko lang yung pagkaka-lecture ni Papa. Tama yun.
Oo.
I highly agree na yung emotion ay valid feelings. Valid po talaga yun. At saka, yun ay merong power to motivate yung emotion. At saka yung huling-huli na gustuhan ko, yung sinabi niya, it is fluctuating.
Unstable.
Unstable. Kaya nga, mga brethren, mga young people,
Huwag bibili ng gitara.
i-remind ko kayo, huwag kayong bibili ng gitara pagka
Masaya.
emotional lang kayo.
Nasa need.
Meron tayong mga mga young people, meron tayong mga preacher na ang ginagamit ay emotion. Emotion. Kaya maraming mga young people ang nasasama dahil yung emotional yung kanilang type of worship eh. Masaya. Emotional talaga, masaya sila, nagpapalakpakan pa. Tapos maya-maya mag-iiyakan. Ayan. Emotional. At marami ang natatrap. Marami nako-convert. Subalit, mga young people, remind you that these feelings are fluctuating.
Unstable.
Pagkatapos na kayo ma-convert dyan, maya-maya mauuntog kayo, matatauhan na naman kayo.
May stress na yun.
At hindi niyo maintindihan kung bakit kayo napunta doon. Kaya mag-iingat po tayo mga kapatid, mga young people, sa mga pinapakinggan natin ng mga
Music.
sermon, music, mga preaching. Mag-iingat po tayo dyan. Lalo ngayong panahon, maraming preacher ang gumagamit niya ang emotion na yan. Careful, careful.
Thank you, Papa. Hindi niya napigilan, umakyat talaga siya. Hindi ko alam kung saan siya nanonood. Nanonood yata siya sa baba. Pero thank you, Papa, for that input. Yes, Kuya
Thank you
Baba.
for agreeing with me.
Akala mo. Yun naman.
Napahinga ako ng malalim, yes.
Hold
Yes,
your
you were
emotions before you respond.
Yeah.
Baka sobrang saya mo, di ba?
Oo.
Your question, you please answer Kuya JD's question a while ago.
Ayun. To answer your question, JD, parang I haven't really read much about that. Pero based on my understanding, based on what I read, and the few that I read, yung emotions natin would have certain triggers. For example, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, when we learn something new, it would have a trigger. It would be that trigger to increase dopamine levels. So parang when you have that trigger or that event, yung dopamine would maintain that feeling. Na parang hindi lang siya yung, wow, I learned something new, tapos wala na kaagad.
O prolong.
So parang to maintain that feeling of pleasure or to maintain feeling good, to maintain the feeling of happiness, yung dopamine would increase. So parang, ayun, kagaya nung sinabi, may nag-comment kanina, it's vice versa. So number one, may trigger, for example, that short moment of happiness, parang wow! Tapos dopamine levels or these hormones would increase, and then you would feel happier. You would feel happy for a longer period of time. Hindi lang siya yung at that moment. Ayun. So ganun siya. So that's how it works.
Thank
Kasi
you very
parang
much.
siguro gusto rin ng Panginoon for us to enjoy these moments.
Yeah.
Ayaw niya lang na parang when you learn something new, or when you achieve something, or when you receive love from someone, or when you receive a gift from someone, or the Lord wants us to enjoy that moment. Kasi nga, ang Panginoon is not, the Lord is not, ano tawag dito?
The
The
Lord,
Lord is the God of love.
yes.
So he has emotions, diba? Even God has emotions. So he wants us to do this, to have the same. So
Amen.
ganun din siguro siya.
Thank
So
you
kung,
very much,
so kung
no?
applicable siya for happy hormones or positive hormones, applicable din siya sa negative hormones.
Yes.
Or
May tendency din na ma-prolong yung depression mo or yung
Yes.
sadness. Di ba?
So, you mentioned din kanina no, on how to increase possibly these good hormones, happy hormones, like eating banana. To our listeners and viewers, you can watch our previous episodes. We just talked about the new
Mm-hmm.
start, and how it can actually influence your emotions as well. Okay, resulting to on how we're going to face the emotions that Sister Brinal just mentioned about fear, anxiety, and what's the other, anger. No,
Anger word.
these emotions are very dangerous. Okay, because these emotions can actually lead you to sinning. And in the last days, it's very important that we know how to control or manage our emotions, because just as what Tito Gas has mentioned kanina, the enemy will also use emotions to cloud our thoughts on knowing who really God is. Tama po ba tayo? Mother Hands.
Yes. By all means kasi sa lahat,
Tama.
kahit anong paraan gagamitin.
May counterfeit talaga ang kalaban sa mga ng Panginoon. So if God uses emotions, the enemy can also use emotions. Diba?
Yes.
Para madamay tayo sa kanya. So going back, ayan. So kanina sabi ni Ate Bray, we would be discussing three major emotions that would affect our actions, or that would affect us, that greatly affects us. Greatly. Yeah, number one is anger. And so what is anger? Meron na po ba dito who hasn't felt angry? Never, not once in their lives?
I don't feel angry.
Same. Ako din. Joke. Di ba? Wala pong exception doon. Again, this is a universal feeling. Everyone feels angry at something, sometimes at someone. Diba? So it is the resentful feeling that we get, or displeasure, when when we see something unfair or unjust, or something that's not supposed to happen, or someone who's not supposed to be there. And there are different kinds of anger. Ayun, siguro sa mga psychology majors, they can discuss this deeper. Pero let's just parang name a few. There are other forms of anger. Yung pinaka most common identified is anger outburst. Yung parang biglang
Popular for grumpy people.
yeah, grumpy people, grabe. So other forms are having a sarcastic personality, a resentful character, and vengeful anger. Grabe, vengeful anger. So parang different levels of anger. Parang could that mean hate? Parang hatred towards someone? Though, is it wrong to be angry? Parang is it always wrong to get mad? Sister Brian, is it wrong to get mad? Is it biblical to get mad?
Yeah, sabi mo sa Bible, you can be angry, but in your anger, do not sin.
Do not sin. Diba? Even Christ himself, he got mad, he got angry. Yeah. But, diba,
He did not sin.
but he did not sin. So he got angry, he got mad, but he did not sin. So there are situations when anger is appropriate, and called for. For example, when there is injustice and abuse around us, diba? Parang it's really disturbing, or it's really parang weird for us to just be undisturbed about when we see oppression, or when we see injustice around us. Hindi ba kakaiba to just not feel anything? Di ba you would feel parang, that's not supposed to happen. That person was not supposed to do that to that person. Di ba? So for anger to be right, it must, first of all, must have a valid reason. Secondly, sabi dito, it must be aimed at stopping what is wrong, directed upon the act and never on the offender. Diba kasi diba, there are certain things that we do as persons or as people that is actually out of our character. Yung parang hindi ka naman ganun but you did that. So parang someone would get mad at you. Parang just for that. Pero that doesn't necessarily mean that you're that person. Parang, diba?
Only
Parang,
for that particular
only for
reason.
that reason. Parang ako, may mga tao na naiinis ako kapag ginagawa nila yung isang bagay. Pero sa iba, okay naman. Yung parang kapag naiinis ako pag may nasasabi silang ganto, ganyan. Pero in general, you don't really hate or you're not really mad at the person. Parang ganon. And thirdly, yan, while most of our anger is for ourselves, righteous anger is foremost for the glory of God, the welfare of others, and lastly, for ourselves. And in most occasions, our anger is far from being righteous. Kasi most of the time, we get angry or we get mad because of things that are done against us. Diba?
That's when pride comes in.
Diba? So that's when pride comes in and ayun siya. So what could be the effects of anger? Diba? It could lead us to say destructive words. Diba? Say words that we don't really mean to someone, or behavior that is also destructive to other people. Yung parang kunwari, nagrarant tungkol dun sa tao na yun. Tapos nasi-share na yung rant mo dun sa ibang tao. So sila din naiinis na rin dun sa tao. 'Di ba? So pero hindi naman talaga nila alam kung anong nangyayari. Pero naiinis na rin sila dun sa tao. So that is one of the adverse effects of anger. Another is our decisions, they become irrational. When we are angry, ang gusto lang natin palagi, most of the time, we always want to get even. Parang gusto lang lagi nating makabawi dun sa taong nakapanakit sa atin. Diba? So, another is adverse physical reaction. Ayun. So, nagkakaroon ng, anong tawag nito? In our body, nagkakaroon ng physiological changes. If our anger, or it's not just anger, all negative emotions, they would have adverse effects on our body. If we cherish these emotions, they would lead to parang changes in our body. Kunwari, madalas nang sumakit yung tiyan mo without any reasons, nawawalan ka na ng ganang kumain, ano pa ba? Heart problems, mga ganon. So ayun yung anger. So that's anger and its effects. 'Di ba nakikita din natin, no? Anong tawag dito? Yung mga road rage, ang daming videos ng ganun, 'di ba? Tapos after that, yung taong nag-trending after that, they would almost always magpo-post din sila ng ano tawag dito, public apology towards the other person. Sasabihin nila, hindi po talaga ako ganun, nadala lang po ako ng galit. Diba? So that is one of the adverse effects of kapag nagpapadala tayo sa anger natin. Again, when we make our emotions, when we base our decisions on our emotions. And that one is when we base our decisions on anger. Next po is fear. Ano naman po yung fear? So fear is a strong sense of feeling na you there is a threat or harm na paparating sa iyo. So sometimes ano lang siya, parang takot ka lang. Sometimes it could be chronic. Parang nandiyan na siya sa iyo forever. 'Di ba minsan parang tawag nito, when we are traumatized, ganun, parang there would always be that fear in us. Pero is fear good or is it always bad? JD, do you think is fear good? Parang are there cases na fear is good or appropriate?
Well, as you've mentioned din kanina, no, our emotions are valid. There are moments that we fear, no, and it's okay. But let's not stay on that emotion. The Lord does not want us to fear, no, because if you have God, definitely you will not fear. But as human beings, we fear some things, no, that is inevitable. But do not stay in that emotion.
Tama. And sometimes, 'di ba, fear is sometimes good kasi it makes us do things to make us safe.
Necessary.
'Di ba? For example, the fear of home break-ins. 'Di ba? What do? We lock our doors. We put locks in our doors. If hindi ka takot sa mga magnanakaw or hindi ka takot sa home invasions, you wouldn't lock those doors. 'Di ba? So those are the times when fear is good, when fear is appropriate. It would only become inappropriate in certain situations. Like for example, it is baseless. Ano ba yung mga mga baseless fears? Yung mga fears natin na parang unnecessary naman. Is fear of sabi dito, fear of cockroaches and spiders. Is it baseless?
Well, as this was somehow mentioned in our previous discussion with Sister Brynel and Brother Eman last week, that we fear different things. We fear different stuff. Different people, no, we experience fear sa iba't ibang mga bagay. And I think, no, I would say that it's valid. It's a valid emotion to fear those things
Yeah,
at
and
some
just like
point,
what
at some level.
nung sa previous discussion din natin, fear is like an alarm. It's a signal that makes us
Alert.
nag-a-alarm sa atin, o nag-a-alert sa atin to, oh, something is dangerous or something is dangerous, then you will make appropriate action to that certain danger. And before we continue, yeah, I would like to shout out sa ating mga online viewers, yan kay Kuya Ryan. Hi, Rai! Thank you for watching. And we also have questions then online, and hopefully ma-address natin siya later after ng discussion, after ng presentation ni Kuya Babar.
Ayun. So there are, again, it is inappropriate if it is baseless or when it is exaggerated, yung parang sobrang, parang, okay, sige, takot ka sa ipis. Pero yung magwawala ka kasi may ipis, parang, okay. Diba? It's exaggerated. Another is when it becomes a predominating mood of our lives. Yung takot ka na lang sa lahat. Diba? So it leads to a deeper level of fear. I think nito yung anxiety.
Paranoia.
Diba? It's a deeper anxiety, paranoia. It's a deeper level of fear. Hindi lang siya basta fear. Nagkakaroon ka na talaga, nararamdaman mo na talaga siya sa katawan mo. Hindi mo siya mapipigilan. Nagkakaroon ka na ng nito. Na-witness ka yun eh. Nag-tremors ka na talaga, nahihirapan ka na talagang huminga. Kasi
Na-experience mo yun kailan? Pag wala kang kasama sa bahay?
Huh? Ano yun? Shallow fear. Fear of ghosts. Baseless. Totally baseless. Fear of ghosts. Ayun. Though, syempre, hindi mo sila masisisi. Parang if a person is anxious or if a person is anxious about something, hindi mo naman yun kaagad-agad matatanggal sa kanya eh. 'Di ba? Parang hindi mo naman yun kaagad hindi mo naman kaagad pwedeng sabihin sa kanya na think happy thoughts, wag mo lang isipin yun. 'Di ba? Hindi siya madaling, it's a lot easier said than done. Ayun. So what are the ill effects of inappropriate fear? It deters us from doing the right thing. 'Di ba? Parang when you're afraid of something, parang when you're too afraid, if you let fear rule over you, parang ang dami mo nang hindi magagawa. Parang puro ka na lang takot sa buhay. And it prevents us from engaging fully with life. Parang paano ba? Paano ba to? Parang
It stops
if you
you
would, it stops you from actually parang
from living.
from living. Yung parang it stops you from maximizing your talents. If you would remember the parable of the 10 talents, the parable of talents, 'di ba? Ano yung nangyari dun sa anong emotion yung nag-rule dun sa pangatlong servant? 'Di ba it's fear, the fear of actually losing the money. So, ganun din sa atin. And that is something na ayaw na mangyari sa atin ng Panginoon. The Lord does not want us to live in fear. Diba? Sabi nga, di ba niya, do not be afraid. So, another is, it renders us to unable to enjoy and cherish life. Diba? Life is good. Diba? There are many things that can make you happy. Pero minsan dahil sa fear, parang dahil sa takot ka lang, parang kunwari, magsiswimming lang sa beach, pero takot ka kasi may pating, or takot ka kasi baka magkaroon ng tsunami. Diba? Hindi ka na lang maliligo sa dagat. Diba? Those are just simple examples. Diba? Na parang, again, another baseless fear. Ayan. So, the last emotion that I would want us to, parang gusto ko lang i-discuss ngayon is worry. Worry is almost the same as fear. Hindi ba? Or parang, how are they different?
I think worry is more on synonymous with anxiety because you're worrying for the future. Parang nagwo-worry ka sa pwedeng mangyari. Parang kasi pag based again on our previous discussion about mental health, about simply devastating last week, the fear is a current emotion that you're feeling. Anxiety is your future fear. It's the fear of tomorrow. It's the fear of the unknown. Okay. So I think worry is somehow similar to the anxiety.
Almost, it's more closely related to anxiety. Or parang are they parang types of fear? Or parang pwede natin sila i-classify under fear? Kasi parang you worry, kunwari, you worry about tomorrow kasi you're afraid. Kunwari, you worry about tomorrow's, tawag nito? You worry about tomorrow, yung, tawag nito? Yung sa mga gastusin because you're afraid na baka wala na kayong kainin.
I think that's possible, no? Kasi pero I think it's better that we establish that worry and anxiety is a future. It's your fear of the future. It's your fear of the future, fear of tomorrow.
Yeah. And I would like to recognize din isa sa mga online viewers natin sumasagot sa mga tanong natin.
Ay, talaga?
Kula Ryan Pablo says, worrying is blind and cannot discern the future. So it blinds
It blinds us of the future. Totoo din.
So somehow, yes, it's still fear, brother Hans Van, but it's a fear of tomorrow, fear of the future.
Ayan. So sometimes we worry about, about our health, about, yung stability, parang, kunwari, for example, sa atin, for young adults, diba, we worry about the stability of our jobs, diba? We worry about our futures, kaya may mga tao that as young as us nag-i-invest na for the future because we worry, diba? And again, it is a natural feeling that we get. Again, it is a feeling that we have to acknowledge and address. It's not just something na parang throw under the bush. Hindi. So again, worry is. Pero I'll ask you this question again. Kagaya, just like the question that I asked you earlier. are there situations that worrying is good
Yeah, like
or
fear.
worrying is
Katulad ng
appropriate?
fear, katulad ng fear kanina, di ba? Mga ano yun, mga alerts natin, mga
Mhm.
signals. Same with fear kanina. Worry, di ba? And it will lead you to acting appropriately, taking necessary or appropriate actions dun sa mga alerts na binibigay ng worry sa atin, katulad worry mo for your kids, for their health. And of course,
Mhm.
your appropriate reaction to that is feeding them good food, diba? So that will
Mhm.
lead you to acting on it appropriately with, alam mo yun, rightful actions. So those are alerts na God designed in our body, like what he said a while ago.
Exactly. And anong tawag nito? And again, it would always, anong tawag nito? Parang nilagay again siya dyan to be an alert to us or to be an alarm for us, para aware tayo, for us to do something for it to not happen. Diba? So, pero again,
To
the enemy is
avoid a future
um,
damages or
yes,
harm.
or to avoid harm. So, pero again, the enemy is using it. The enemy is ang tawag nito is magnifying yung mga worries of the unknown. Yung parang minamagnify ng, and that's when it becomes inappropriate. Just like fear, it becomes inappropriate kapag um when when it kapag when we are just driven by worry, na parang ayun na yung nagiging predominant feeling, which parang you just worry about, I think parang you're so worried about getting sick na inaalkoholan mo na lahat. Yung parang, yung mga maliliit na bagay that makes you become paranoid or makes you become, again, you would miss the beautiful things about life because you focus so much on the fear of getting harm, the fear of pain, the fear of worrying about getting stressed in the future, that you miss everything that is in front of you right now. Because you worry so much about the future, you miss everything that that God is giving you right now. 'Di ba? Kasi parang masyado ka ng advanced mag-isip, hindi mo na nakikita na your family is around you, hindi mo na nakikita na you have friends, tas eventually na kakalimutan mo na sila, kaka-worry mo about the future, and then eventually they would just drift away, tas pagtingin mo, wala na sila. Yung parang those are just the adverse effects. Again, these are the little things that we should that we should watch out, kasi doon tayo natitira ng kalaban, in these little things, tapos eventually we wouldn't notice ang laki na pala nila, na ang hirap na nating alisin sa sistema natin. Ayun lang. So those are the three
Thank you
those
very
are
much.
the three major emotions na gusto ko lang i-discuss. So ngayon, so what do we do? Parang, how do we deal with this emotion? Parang, as Christians, how do we deal with these emotions? So number one, so we have to accept that it is part of your personhood. Again, di ba nung sinabi natin kanina earlier in the discussion, we as humans are created with emotions. So we have to accept na there are times that we are happy, there are times that we are sad, and we have to make sure that we know that we are happy when we are happy. Now, we are sad when we are sad, na parang hindi natin siya, ang tawag nito, imamask, that we don't mask our emotions. Kasi yun yung parang, when we mask our emotions, it's just there, but it wouldn't really go away. It's just there. Tapos, if a trigger would come by ulit, parang lalabas ulit siya, tapos this time it's bigger than it was. Tapos ang gagawin mo, imamask mo lang ulit, tapos eventually palaki lang ulit siya ng palaki. So again, you have to accept that sometimes there are really times that we would feel depressed, we would feel stressed, we would feel angry, we would feel mad, that it is really a part of us. And next is we have to acknowledge these emotions when we feel them. Na, ang tawag nito? Di ba, the very first step to healing is acceptance. Parang acceptance is the key. Kasi di ba, paano mo ma-address? For example, you're angry and you want it to go away. How would you make it go away? How would you make anger go away if you would not acknowledge what you're feeling right now is anger towards that person? So you have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that I am angry towards what you did. And then from there, parang mas madali mo na siyang ma-address and you can do something about it easier. And lastly, you have to, lastly, hindi pa pala to last. Next is you have to evaluate your emotions. Diba? Parang you have to ask yourself, bakit ko ba ito nararamdaman? You have to ask yourself, mga in the call center industry, we call them probing questions. You have to get to the root cause. For you to be able to solve something, you have to get to the root cause of the problem. So why am I angry? Why am I angry at this person? Okay, it's because of something that he did. So parang, okay, why was I angry about that? So once we evaluate ourselves, once we stop and think and evaluate our emotions and tawag nito, and take time to actually anong tawag nito, evaluate our emotions, to actually think about our emotions, it would be easier for us to solve that problem, and para hindi na tayo mag-dwell pa doon. And then another is, sinabi na natin to kanina, we must not use it as a guide in decision making. Diba? Again, we must not base our decisions on our emotions. Kasi most probably, we would regret that decision later, or we would regret that action later. And last but not the least, we must always subject our emotion to reason and the Bible. So every time we would feel strongly about something, and we would always, diba sinabi ko kanina, emotions would always lead to actions. So before we actually act on our emotions, or before we actually act on anything at all, our guide in life must be reason and the word of God. And it must never be the feelings. When the Bible says so, whether it's convenient or it's comfortable for us or not, diba? It is the right thing to do. Then we must do it. Kahit ayaw natin. Parang minsan, parang sobrang hirap para sa atin na parang kahit alam mo na talaga yung tamang dapat mong gawin, parang ang hirap pa rin. But you know what you must do. So another way to to control our emotions is through our thoughts. Diba yung, paano ba?
Since you've mentioned kanina rationality.
Rationality. Diba? Kailangan mong i-assess yung sarili mo. Parang, why am I mad at this person? Am I mad at this person as a whole? Or am I just mad dun sa bagay na ginawa niya? Diba? Para mas maano sa'yo, mas madala, dun lang pala. So kapag kinausap mo na siya, actually hindi naman ako galit sa'yo, dun lang sa ginawa mo. Then it would be easier for you to forgive each other. Na parang, okay, yun lang pala. Akala ko naman sa akin ka talaga galit. Diba? It's easier for you to let go of these feelings. It's easier for you to forgive. And then eventually forget that feeling that you had with that person. Ayun.
Nice. That's actually a very nice practice. If you practice to yung subjective, hindi tayo subjective, we have to be objective. Especially when it comes to anger, when it comes to worrying almost about everything. We have to be objective. We don't look at the And also, especially like what you said, in forgiving, it'll be easier for us to forgive kung doon lang talaga tayo galit sa nagginawa, hindi doon sa gumawa.
Gumawa.
So we have to, that's a very nice practice. Although it's not easy, nobody said it's easy, but it's possible.
Oo,
It's
totoo.
not easy, but it's possible.
At saka when we become subjective with our actions or with our thoughts, we always tend to be selfish. Nagiging self-centered tayo kapag subjective tayo. So that's why, di ba, sinabi kanina dito, our actions and our decisions, we must always turn to the Word of God. Kasi it would bring us back. It would bring
Yeah.
us back na parang to the right path.
Yes. And it's applicable to almost any relationship. Hindi lang yan sa mag-asawa. Also applicable to friendship, to even inside the church, at the workplace, sa school, especially with our friends and classmates. It will be very it's a very good practice. So I encourage the young people to, when you are angry, it's okay. The Bible says it's okay to be angry, but do not sin in our anger. Especially when we worry, it's okay to worry, but remember that you have God, diba? Also with fear. It's okay to fear, but remember that God is with you. So those are the things that, kasi when we're talking about validity of our emotions, we're trying to validate our emotions. Our emotions are actually valid. But then again, the problem arises when we tend to focus more, when we spend so much time, like what you said, evaluating your emotion. You're spending so much time in processing your anger, processing your worry, taking so much time, diba? It's already, before you know it, it's already become a part of you. It's become your personality and character. So be careful on spending so much time in processing those, evaluating or assessing your emotions. Yes, and before we continue, I would like to recognize our online viewers from Norway. Hi, Mary Joy and Ash, Chloe and Eunice, hi there. And also to our family in Taguig, Tito Dong and Tita Bam's family are watching also. Thank you for watching. And yeah, before we continue, we have questions online, but I would like to ask our participants in Zoom, our young people here in Abu Dhabi Church. Yeah. Can you please open your cameras and your mic? If your camera na lang for a while. If you have question, feel free to ask. Kuya Baban is very much willing to answer your questions. Yes, he's very much prepared for this. If you would like to know more about your emotion, Kuya Baban, is it okay to have a crush with this person? Blah blah blah. Or is it true that love is not an emotion, Kuya Baban? If you have any questions, those are not the questions though. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Our young people from Abu Dhabi. Yes, do you have any question? Anything? Oh, wow, you're really good, Kuya Baban, because all of them understood your presentation about emotion.
Praise
Yeah.
God.
Praise
And praise
God.
God, nobody is suffering from nobody has any question. Do you have any question? If not, we're going to move to our online viewers. Any question? Yeah. Maybe they are not at home. Yes, do you have any question? Haley and Stella, I can see you. While waiting for their questions, there's a question here from Ate Nikki. Wow, Ate Nikki, you're asking, do we consider love as emotion, Kuya Baban? Wow, this is very tiny for Kuya Baban. Kuya Baban, can you answer that question? Is love an emotion or is it love? Is love, ano yung tanong ko? Do we consider love as emotion, Kuya Baban? By the way, hi, Ate Roby. Ate Roby is watching. Biglang nawala si Kuya Baban.
You're still muted.
Ayan, ay sorry. Ayan. So, ang sabi ni Mrs. White in her writings that though love is ang tawag nito? Love is parang hindi ko mahanap yung tamang term. Yung pinapa is kept on burning, parang that love, it is kept burning by emotions. It is not based on our emotions. It is based on the principles set by our Father. And so kasi again, love itself, ang tawag nito? Yung kilig that we feel, or that happiness or pleasure that we feel when we are with a person, or when we are with someone that we say that we love, just like any other emotions, it fluctuates. Sometimes you would feel strongly about this person, minsan sakto lang, minsan tama lang, ganyan. Pero the love is there. It doesn't go away.
Where's the love?
It's just right here. Yan. Minsan, ang tawag nito? Ayun nga, just like any other emotions, it fluctuates. So if you would just think of love as a feeling or an emotion, parang unstable siya. 'Di ba? You would always have that fear, you would always have that worry that someday it would go away. Kasi it's a feeling eh. Parang you would consider it as a feeling or as an emotion. 'Di ba? Parang you would always, paano kung bukas hindi niya na ako love? Paano kung bukas parang ayaw niya na ako makita? You would always have those questions on your mind. 'Di ba, Ate Bri?
Yeah.
I think you would know. Kasi, siyempre, may asawa ka na, ikaw yung may asawa sa ating tatlo. 'Di ba? Parang,
Love is a principle, like what you said, yes. But most of our young people cannot relate to that. What do you mean love is a principle? I don't understand. What do you mean love is a principle, Kuya Babad? Can you answer that? Love is a principle. I mean, I've heard about love is a principle so many times when I was younger. And I kept saying love is a principle. But then again, I don't really fully understand. What does that mean? I'm sure our young people who are listening right now, especially from Abu Dhabi Adventist Church, our young people, here I can see Ate Jana, Kuya Diego. Oh, Kuya Diego is not here. Kuya Cestel and Haley. Yeah, I'm sure they would appreciate if you can tell us more about what is the meaning of love is a principle. Kuya Baban, why are you laughing?
I think ikaw yung mas makakasagot niyan kasi ikaw yung may asawa na. Parang,
I would love to answer that,
yeah.
but I'm not the guest. So to clarify, especially the young people, because we have young people watching, right? Kuya, Uncle Baban is blushing. Why are you blushing? Are you in love now?
Because his love is watching.
His
You
love is
just
watching.
mentioned her a while ago.
To answer the query of one of our online viewers, yes, love is a principle, but then again, we have to remember it's a mix actually. It's a mixture of love, principle, and emotion. Because you cannot love only by principle because it will become stiff. Diba? Mukha siyang emotionless. Parang, would you like to love a person who doesn't have a feeling, di ba?
So may kilig ka pa rin kay Kuya Jerome?
Yeah, but it's a different level of kilig. Unlike before, na the kilig was when he's fetching you home or sending you to work or giving you gifts. Not that kind of kilig anymore. Now, the kind of kilig that we have when you're married is that when he's changing the diaper of the babies, when he's giving your needs, when he is helping you around the house. That's the different level of kilig when you're married. So when you say love is a principle, when you say principle, it always talks about the mind. It's in the head. So when you say principle, you can answer is it right? You will always go back to that answer when you're talking about principles. What are those principles? These are the standards, no? These are the standards of the things that you are supposed to do. Your beliefs, your core beliefs, your so if you're going to do something, for example, I'm going to court this certain person. So I'm not going to base my action only on my emotion just because my friends are pressuring me to, oh, come on, you go court this girl because she's so cute. She's so, that's pressure, right? Although you already have that emotion that you're attracted to that certain person, right? You have that emotion. You get kilig when you see her, you get excited when you talk to her. Those are the emotions. But when you say principle, then you'll start asking yourself, if I'm going to court her right now, do I have money to date her? That's a because that's the standard. You have to treat her for a date. You have to send her gifts. So if I'm going to court her right now, I'm going to answer using my head because this is where the Lord talks to us. So this is where your principles, your standards, the right or wrong are stuck. So you will answer, if I'm going to court her, do we have the same beliefs? Is she wife material? Is he husband material? Is he family oriented? Those are the things that you start to answer when you're talking about principles. Okay, so it's not only about emotion and it's not only about principle. When it's only about emotion, like what you said, it will become unstable. You love her today, you hate her tomorrow, and then you don't like her the next day. And then you will love her again eventually. And then you will hate her again. So it's fluctuating, it's unstable. But if you mix it, if you, with principle, if you don't like her now, you still love her because you are using your head, right? Do you I'm trying to make it as simple as I can so that our young people who are listening can understand. Do you understand, Haley and Stel? Right? So
Wow.
when you are crushing on someone, it's not love right away, okay? But crushing can lead to love if you nurture, if you flourish that, and you start asking yourself, is it right? Is it the right thing to do? Is this what the Lord wants me to do? So that's when principle comes in. So love again is a mixture of emotion and principle. Because you cannot love without emotion, di ba? Parang that would be against the character of the Lord because the Lord God is a loving God, and you cannot imagine him emotionless because he's loving God. So I hope that's clear. You ate so much of our time answering that. You know, the one who asked this question is Nikki. I think she's already, targeting someone. Hi, Nikki. I hope you're
Bawal.
watching.
Bawal sabihin pa.
Yes. So to the young people out there, if you're looking for someone, it's okay. It's okay to look, observe. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to remember that the Lord gave us the mind where we stop our principles. Any other questions po? No more questions? Wow. I really like our audience, the young people of Adventist, Abu Dhabi Adventist Church. Very, what do you call that? You absorbing, attentive. Any question?
I have a question. Yung
Mm.
my love life. Yeah. Have you ever felt na parang ayaw niya na? Po, yes. Parang, yung hindi na kayo masaya, ganun.
Who are you, kanino mo question yan?
Sa'yo.
So yung Tito Brent, si Uncle Hans may,
Ay, sa akin.
Sino pong gusto sumagot kung si Uncle Hans? Kung na-feel mo na ba na yun?
Hindi na kayo masaya. That's a very nice question. Kasi, a lot of annulment, a lot of divorce, separation, legal separation nowadays are based on happiness. Diba? If you're not happy anymore with your husband, leave him. Diba? Parang, iwan mo na. If your husband is not making you any if he's not making you happy anymore, that's a ground. That's actually uh, a valid ground for divorce. If your husband is not making you happy anymore, that's a valid grounds for divorce. That's a difference between annulment and divorce. But then again, let's go back to the principle. Happiness is also an emotion, right? Like what I said a while ago. Today you're happy, tomorrow you're not happy again. And then you'll be happy again, and then not happy. So it's fluctuating. But, di ba, like what we said, love is an emotion and principle. So although you're not happy now, there's yeah, if your question is, was there a time that you become yeah, especially when he's getting in your nerves na yung may mga ginagawa siyang ayaw mo, you're not happy. Will you be happy? Diba? Of course not. But since your love is not based on emotion only, but also in principle, you will go back. You will go back to what real love is. And the Lord will sustain your union. Why is your question like that? Is this marriage counseling or something? Love, courtship, and marriage? Did I answer your question, Haley? Is it clear?
Parang wala naman yung love dun sa tatlong diniscuss natin na joke na
No.
dun.
Yeah, and going back to your presentation, di ba? A while ago, we were talking about anger, fear, and worry are all negative emotions. They're all negative emotions. They're all obvious bad emotions na we have to look out for. Pero kanina, di ba, binanggit natin na even positive emotions can be...
Too much happiness or too much excitement.
Right, JD?
Yes, I think it's hindi na ako nagsalita sa love kasi you both are more expert on that matter, no? But let's just be clear, no? I am very blessed with what Brother Hans Van has shared tonight. Here in the Philippines, it's night. It's still afternoon in Abu Dhabi. That we must be careful with our emotions, whether it be the negative emotions or the positive emotions, because the enemy will definitely use it. Okay? Again, nabanggit kanina, your emotions are valid, but do not stay in that emotion. Do not let that emotion lead you to make decisions. Do not let that emotion lead you to actions, especially in committing actions that is sinning already. And take note that during the last days, during these days, the enemy already instilled to us fear because of this pandemic. But may we not feel anxiety on the coming of the Lord, on the future, because we are assured on the coming of the Lord. Okay, and we are assured that we are already blessed, which is also saved, which is also related in our lesson study. This for this entire week, we talked about the covenant, and in the covenant there are laws there that all reflects generally about love. And if you're looking for love, that's the love of God, no? Ayun lang yung love na meron ako. Love and family, no? But
For now.
for
And
now,
he's,
maybe.
are you looking, Kuya JD?
Hindi po. Hindi pa po. Okay. And let's just be clear na mga kabataan na yung emotion na nararamdaman mo, it's valid. But do not settle on that. Do not stay on that. Be assured, you are assured that you are safe. Do not feel anxiety. Do not feel anxious, no, on the future. You can feel fear right now, but remember that the Lord will deliver you from those fear. So again, I think that's my
Take for now.
takeaway. Tapos yun pala, before we end, magpa-plug lang ako. Please continue watching the Youth Stake. There's a supplementary topic for this one tomorrow. Tama ba? Sister Brian, will talk deeper about it, more on the emotions and the hormones and biblically know what the Lord wanted us to talk about. And also plug na din ako ng aking YouTube channel. It's called Let's Talk. So I
What happened to
share,
JD's Corner?
yeah,
Akala ko JD's Table Talk. Akala ko
it's
yun.
it's
JD's
JD's
Corner?
Corner. It's JD's
Ayun,
Corner.
JD's Corner.
It's
Table.
one of the playlists of Let's Talk, and
Hmm.
it's generally about sharing relevant words, significant words during this time of pandemic that can help you, also face emotions and handle emotions. Ayun lang po.
To continue before we end, Kuya Baban, do you have any last words to the young people who are watching, especially to our Abu Dhabi Adventist youth community na nandito ngayon with us? Do you have any last words for them? Any piece of advice as their kuya?
Yung I think one of the last words, yung gusto kong iwan sa inyo tonight. One of these things is to answer yung question ni Ate Bray kanina. The enemy, they don't just use yung obvious na negative emotions that we feel, like anger, like worry, like fear or sadness, anxiety or depression. Hindi lang yun yung ginagamit ng kalaban. We must also know, or we must also be aware that the enemy is also using yung positive, the positive emotions that we get against us or against other people. I would like to cite yung example ni King Herod. May ipupush ko pa rin talaga yung example niya. If you would remember, when John the Baptist was in prison and King Herodias, di ba, si King Herodias had a daughter, tapos sumayaw yung anak niya in front of the people. So sobrang saya niya. Sinabihan niya yung anak niya, si Herodias ba, yung anak niya, or basta yung anak niyang babae na kahit anong hilingin mo, ibibigay ko sa'yo. So, yung nanay nung yung nanay nung anak na yun, galit kay John the Baptist. So sabi niya, sige, hingiin mo yung ulo ni John the Baptist, ilagay sa silver platter, sabi nung nanay niya. Ngayon, ito si John the Baptist, though he is in prison, ito si King Herod, he doesn't have anything against John the Baptist. He even thinks well of John the Baptist. Diba, te? He likes John the Baptist. Diba? He doesn't hate or wala siyang negative feeling towards John the Baptist. So, nung ni-request yon nung anak niya sa kanya, he was taken aback. Wait, ha? Ulo ni John the Baptist? Abak? Parang, siguro nagtaka siya, nagtanong siya. But since he already made a promise, out of his happiness or out of the excitement that he felt, he was now bound to his words. And we all know what happened. Diba? He obliged to the request of his daughter. So ganun to go back kanina, we must not just be wary, or we must not just be alert of these negative emotions. More than that, we must be more aware of the positive emotions that we get, the extreme positive emotions that we get, because it could also lead us to danger. Ayun lang. So, ayun lang.
Lana, sure.
Final answer.
Okay, so to the young people who are listening right now, not only to our Abu Dhabi Adventist Community Church, the young people, also to our online viewers. So basically, anything that is not, hindi natin nakokontrol or hindi natin na-moderate, or not, hindi natin na-assess, or anything that is imbalance, hindi natin na-balance, can be harmful, whatever kind of emotion that can be. May that be a negative emotion or a positive emotion, those emotions can actually cloud our judgment. So be careful, not only of the negative emotions, but also our positive emotions. What are those positive emotions? It can be your happy feeling, your excitement, your pleasure, your, ano pa ba? Whatever can
Kilig.
come up. Yeah, kilig. Even the kilig emotion, that's positive. But it's too much kilig, it will judge you. It will block your judgment. So
Yung kilig ni Samson towards
Delilah, yeah. So it blocked his frontal lobe, his judgment. So that's what made him That's what caused his fall. So be careful. Because according to Jeremiah 79, di ba nga, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. So who can understand it? So we have to be very careful of what our heart is telling us. We always have to consult. Kaya nga nasa taas yung ulo, wala dito. So we always have to consult our heart here. Although hindi po pwedeng laging ito. We also have to have a heart because our God is a loving God. So I think that will be all for today. I think that's a wrap up because tomorrow we will have a continuation of this discussion with Kuya Eman, hopefully. And we would like to thank... Yeah, any question?
Ate G?
Close of probation na.
Question. After
Wala na.
Pag-aralan, do you have any any situation where you were in a heightened emotion and you made a wrong decision in your life?
I guess your question is wrong. Was there ever a time that you were not emotional?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sa akin ba? Sa akin? Ako ba yung tinatanong mo?
Personal.
Marami. Do you want
Proud
me
mo siya.
Yeah, like one example. Na you really
So the young people can learn from it.
can learn
I
from
think
it?
the buying the guitar thing.
Ato, ayun. This is a very recent experience. Kaya alam nyo, mga kabataan, nag-worship tayo.
Props po yun.
Yes. Ayun. So, eto, sa mga kabataan, when you are asked to speak, the message is not just for the listeners. It is most probably directed at you if you are the speaker for that day. Just like this topic, when this was given to me, parang, emotions, ako, ang bilis kong bumili. Diba? So it is a way, God really works in mysterious ways to remind us of our weaknesses. So if you want to, I'll give you a very recent example. Kanina. Ano ba? Ano ba to? Extremely happy that made you feel regret, ganon.
Kahit ano.
Yeah? Yung last Christmas, kasama ko yung mga katrabaho ko. Nasa mall kami. Ngayon, yung mga kasama ko, gusto nilang bilihan ng regalo yung parents nila. Ngayon, so parang ako, gusto ko rin bilhan si Papa kasi yung mga kasama ko, binibilhan nila ng regalo yung mga magulang nila. Tapos parang, yung binibili kasi ng kasama ko, cellphone. So parang ako, gusto ko rin. Parang, ako, sige, gusto ko rin siyang bilhan ng phone. Ngayon, at that time, asan si Ate G? Makinig ka, te. And so, at that time, yung ginamit kasi ng katrabaho ko was her credit card. So sabi niya, Ban, kung gusto mong magpabili din or magpasabay, pwede naman. Sabi ko, okay. Ngayon, at that moment, syempre, parang, yay, mabibilan ko si Papa ng regalo. So at that time, yung nasa isip ko was to give the best kind of phone dun sa allocated na budget na feeling ko at that moment, kaya kong bayaran. Na parang okay lang sa akin na bayaran. So, after ako, nag-ikot talaga ako ng mall, ganyan, sobrang saya mo, sobrang heightened, again, yung emotions mo. I bought this phone. It went out of my budget kasi sabi ko, gusto kong ibigay kay Papa yung mabilis na phone, maganda yung camera, ito yung mga specs, ganyan, and this, for this amount. So sabi ko, okay, sige ate, ito na. Ngayon, yung kasama kong bumibili, sabi niya, sigurado ka? Kasi yung budget namin para kay Papa, ito lang. Pero matutuwa na siya dito. Sabi niya sa akin gano'n. Pero ako sabi ko, hindi, mas matutuwa si Papa dito kasi ganito, ganyan. Sabi niya, okay, sige. So pumayag siya. So binili namin yung cellphone. After that, nung binili na namin, pagka-busy namin, pagka-uwi ko or kinabukasan, na-realize ko, si Papa pala ay 60 years old na. Yung iniisip ko na, si Papa naman ay hindi maano sa camera. Tapos hindi niya naman kailangan ng mabilis na phone. Kasi hindi naman siya naglalaro. Gagamitin niya lang yun yung phone, mag-YouTube lang siya, text call. Ayun lang. Ayun yung sudden realization ko na, parang, shocks, oo nga, no? Kaya pala ang mura lang ng gustong bilhin ng mga kasama ko. Sabi ko sa kanilang ganun. So that's when it all dawned on me na parang, dapat pala sumunod ako sa kanila. So that's just one of those, it's an isolated case. Oo. Very rare incidents na nagpadala ka sa
You learn your lesson.
positive emotions. Yeah. Learning the lesson the hard way.
Okay, so that's a learning experience for
Amen.
Kuya Baban, and it's a very expensive lesson to learn.
Just to add, the Lord is going to give us the things that we can bear. So if the Lord is not blessing us enough, because that blessing would go into something that is not really essential. So let us think again. If ever na, bakit ito na yung binibigay sa akin ng Panginoon? This is not enough. This is not always enough. Mga anak, mga teens. It is because the Lord is preparing you to that situation where you can handle situations like that. So, if we are not given enough, salary, or if we're not given enough,
Material things.
it is because the Lord can see that we can't handle such things.
We are not ready for those blessings yet.
So that's a very expensive lesson. I hope our online viewers, our young people in Abu Dhabi will not have to undergo that experience just to learn that expensive lesson. So, Kuya JD.
The best teachers is the experience of others.
Yeah, learning from your experience is good, but learning from others' experiences is better, right? Yeah, right.
O yung others.
Yes. If you don't have any more questions, I think that's a wrap up. I think
Yes.
we have so much to talk about tomorrow.
With
Kuya
Brother Eman.
Yes.
Na
And
hindi
Kuya
nakasama
Eman is
ngayon.
actually watching right now. Kuya Eman, hi, we missed you
Hi,
tonight.
Eman.
He's a very busy bee.
Yes.
Oh, sobrang busy na ating kapatid. So once again, thank you, Kuya Baban, for joining us in our tonight's discussion about handling our emotion. And don't forget to keep watching, liking and sharing Youth Stake. And also, Radical Reconnection is ongoing every Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. And please watch again for tomorrow's discussion with Kuya Eman and Kuya JD. And thank you, Abu Dhabi Adventist
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Church.
much.
Thank you for joining us in our tonight's discussion. I hope our discussion was somehow beneficial to our young people undergoing different kinds of emotion in your adolescence, puberty, di ba, Kuya JB?
Yes, indeed. I totally agree with you. I think I already pitched my closing statement kanina.
Yes. And I
Tandaan
think,
lang natin that we must be careful with our emotions.
yes. And this has been Ate Bri.
This is Kuya JD
And this is the Youth Stake.
in the last days.
Thank you and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Sabbath.